All right, ladies and gentlemen, hello. Welcome back to the Professor's Lab. We're going to take a little bit of a break from the story and plot-related questions, and we'll probably cover a couple of them at the end. But this is going to be more about, like, the channel in general, and how it came into being, and yeah, like, how long have the players known each other, and things like that. We're probably just going to wax poetic for a while, and see where we land. So let's get started. Bookworm wants to know, I know that the channel had other content before D&D, but how did Boarding Party get started? Where did the name come from? And how did we get started with D&D and what led to the campaign starting? So we got started obviously as a board game channel. Boarding Party is just a play on words for board games. Just a little pun. But we used to get together on Saturdays and play board games. And those videos are still on the channel because we just kind of started filming them one day. Joel had a passion and a knack for editing videos and putting things together, and he actually like taught himself all of this stuff, which I have an incredible respect for because he also taught me how to do it, which is amazing. So Joel wanted to do like a fun art project. I want to get into voice acting, and we wanted to just kind of test it out in like a YouTube aspect. Because we have a lot of fun playing board games and we're all very silly, and we thought that people might enjoy watching it, and to an extent we were kind of right. So it was kind of just a fun passion project. Jordan and Ben ran and still to an extent run the social media stuff. Ben's a whiz kid at Twitter, and I respect him for it because I have no idea what I'm doing on Twitter. But I wanted to show my friends and family, who I adore and love playing games with, I wanted to show them the majesty of D&D, because I had played D&D for like 3 hours, didn't understand any of the rules, and had a great time. And then, out of nowhere, way back in the day, here's some DM Drew lore for you. Hello, it's me again, from the editing bay, again. So the audio completely bricked for about, 45 seconds here. So let me just give you a brief rundown. I was about to get into this amazing story about how I was a subscriber of PewDiePie way back in the day, and I watched Matt Mercer run an adventure for PewDiePie. On his channel, I had never heard of like anything like this at all, and then out of nowhere, in the course of like a week, I went from learning about D&D, kind of learning how to play it, playing it, seeing one of my voice acting idols run it for someone I had watched on YouTube for years, and I realized that like this was kind of a big deal. And then yeah, the audio comes back in, and I'll let you get back to it. Bye. And similarly, I was very confused. I had no idea what was going on, but I was hooked. I did not know what was happening, but I had just played D&D. This had just popped up, and I was like, it's fate. I have to know. So I started looking into Matt Mercer, realized I was already a huge fan of all of his work, just didn't know it, because I was a huge voice acting nerd. A lot of my inspiration for voices comes from Matt Mercer and Liam O'Brien and Sam Riegel and Travis Willingham, all those guys. And then I realized that all of those, literally everybody I just mentioned, plays D&D in Critical Role. So I started watching that, and I went, I want to do this. This is the thing I do now. This is it. So on a bunch of board game nights, I kept bringing it up. Hey, you guys want to play D&D? Hey, you guys want to play D&D? Do you want to try this? Do you want to try this game? You want to try this game? It's called D&D. You'll probably like it. And I got a couple mixed reactions. Yeah, maybe someday. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. And then Joel discovered Will Wheaton's Titan's Grave and said, this is pretty cool. I think we could do this. If you haven't watched Titan's Grave, it's super cool. It's got above board, it's got some very like complicated outside things, so it never actually finishes, and I feel really bad for Will Wheaton for it, but all the same, it's a really, really good series. But it started out Joel's gears turning. That sentence didn't make any sense, but it got Joel thinking about how we could edit a D&D show down to just the fun bits. AKA if we film for 4 hours or longer, could we get it down to like a 2-hour session where it's just things happening and it's not rolling dice, doing math, all that stuff? And the answer is like, kind of. Yeah, there's like a nice mix you can get to. So that's kind of the initial bout of it. And then one day I was playing D&D with my buddies and I went, what if I put Pokemon in this? That would get the players to play it, for sure. That would get them. That would get Ben and Joel, absolutely. I bet if I made them adorable, I could probably get Tia involved. And I think Jordan would try anything once. Love you, buddy. So I got them all to sit down for the beta sessions. Those are on YouTube somewhere. We talk about them a lot, but they're out there. You can find them. I have a buzzed head. It's from like, I don't know, 4 years ago. My last haircut, so however long this has been going. Yeah, the beta sessions went up. They were really, really fun. They were a great time, and it got the players thinking of like, okay, what the heck could this be? So we took those beta sessions, and I wanted to teach them more about the rules of D&D. So I said, okay, we're gonna make like normal characters and run a couple one-shots, just to make sure everybody understands it. And we didn't film those. I didn't want any pressure on those. But I got Troy, aka my dad, aka Refasul, aka Lord Ridgemont. And I got Ben, who played Khan Beard Fasay, the Dwarven fighter. And my dad's character was Lynx with a Z. He was an elf with a sword and a bow. It's not hard to do the math, but he got to execute the goblin that they were tracking down for the bounty, and he had my favorite "how do you want to do this" of all time. He says, I pull out an arrow and I shoot him in the head. And I said, I love this. I need to get this man on camera. So in the midst of us wanting to start a board game channel, we filmed a couple things that you guys have hopefully seen, because they were really fun passion projects from way back in the day. We had, we played like Villainous and King's Guild and all kinds of like really, really fun, very complicated board games. We played Catan more than once, or Catan, depending on your pronunciation of it. But yeah, I mean, the rest is kind of history. We got them all to try D&D. They thought it was fun. I got them inspired to think about it in a Pokemon context. We homebrewed a world. I homebrewed a whole system for them, and I said, let's get at it. And yeah, that's kind of how we got here. Bit of a long-winded answer, but it's a long story. Yeah, let's move on down. Are there any plans to add new cast members or introduce guests unrelated to the new arrival? Congratulations, by the way. Congratulations in the comments to two of our tater tots. As of now, a new permanent cast member is unlikely just because of space limitations. That's genuinely what it is. The soundboard could support another microphone. The table can't really. We could like cram somebody else in the corner, but I don't typically like running for a group larger than 6. Really big groups for D&D can work. I mean, Critical Role obviously does a phenomenal job, but it's really hard to make sure everybody has a chance to shine when there are 6 people at the table. It's even harder if there are like 7 or 8. So it's unlikely that we'll see that from that perspective alone. As for would we do guest stars? Yeah. I mean, we just brought my dad back in for Lord Ridgemont, and he had a great time, and I would love to bring him in full time, but that man works so hard and is so busy. So who knows? But I mean, I would love to get like Dean back in. Dean and Veronica both showed up for Joel's Final Fantasy game back in the day. Go check that out too if you're ever curious of like how would another player at the table run the game. Like go look at those. Go watch Joel's cop sessions. Like Joel's a good DM. He doesn't give himself enough credit. Moving on, a whole bunch of you want to know: are we gonna make a website, a wiki, anything like that? And I've touched on it in a few of the prior ones, but I'll say it again here. It's a complicated issue. For those of you that have been kind of keeping up in the just general Pokemon D&D hybrid community, you'll be aware of certain events that make us very hesitant to do anything big picture. Manufacturing and licensing is a real thing. It's a real problem. So it's unlikely, unless the stars align and something falls into our lap, that you'll ever see anything official. I don't want to say anything else about that, but that's that on that. D-Swag and others all want to know if we'll ever do another sort of like fan art contest, things like that. For example, would we ever have the Discord or YouTube viewers help make a new Laris form of a Pokemon? New types, general descriptions. Would we do another art contest? The short answer is, yeah, we would love to do another one. The long answer is not until we get all of the entries in to the current game, which has implications in its own right. We learned a lot from the prior art contest of how we would score it, what we'd be looking for, stuff like that. I do love the idea of using like viewer creations. That's super cool. The reason I haven't up until now is we had the $100 patron tier. I wanted to make sure I got all of that squared away and done, and I really hope everybody enjoyed all of their stuff that got put in, because that has been like this big looming shadow over me, is having people that paid like a lot of money, like a substantial amount of money, to have something featured in the game. I was super hesitant to do anything like that again until I got that all squared away, and I really hope everybody enjoyed all of the Patreon NPCs, because they were super cool. They were very, very interesting. But on a similar vein, we've learned a lot on the Patreon side for if we were to bring that tier back, because I know a lot of people have expressed interest, said they would do it. I've definitely changed what the parameters of it would be, so that it's not a case of, I don't want to rush to slam your NPC in, they get interacted with like once or twice, and then they get left behind forever. But I also can't promise you that they're gonna travel with the party for any like reasonable amount of time, because I just don't know. So would we do another art contest? Yes, I would love to. Would we do like fan-made creations in the game? Yes, I would love to. We just got to do it in the right ways, to make sure that we're not like invalidating that old patron tier. I don't want people to feel like they got ripped off or they should have just waited. So as long as we do it in the right way, I would love to do some more stuff like that. All right, and jumping back into some more of Bookworm's questions. Would a TPK or multiple PC deaths end the campaign, or would everyone roll up new characters and pick up from there? That depends exceptionally heavily on the circumstances. I am very invested in the players, in their characters. So I really hope that they don't all die, but the world is a dangerous place. Stay tuned. But like, would they just pick up the story? No. If the Tots all got wiped out, carte blanche, they're all done, we would probably just be sad and start a new game and just be sad. Multiple PC deaths would be rough. I really hope it doesn't happen, but also things might happen. As threat levels trend upwards, will the Tots be gaining more PC abilities, skills, health? Yes. I've talked about it a couple times. We have been very, very busy over this hiatus. The players and I have been discussing where we want to take the game now that we've had time to kind of sit back and think about it. So when the Tots have downtime, that's your magic phrase. Mentioned it in a couple of these videos. When the Tots have downtime, they will get some new things. They will function very differently in the sense that the players themselves will have abilities. I'm not going to get into the specifics about it because I don't know how we're going to reveal it in the game, but we have to get there first. So stay tuned. When the Tots have downtime, cool stuff will happen. Is the Laris League a summit type circuit with a seeded double elimination bracket like we tend to see for esports? Are there different summits, etc., and so on? Basically, how does the Laris League work? So the Laris League to me is the sort of Pokemon League. The Coliseum League is very different. But the short answer is no. They don't work like esports or anything, because I, as a person, do not understand how esports work. I don't watch sports or esports, so bracket things and stuff like that and ways that those are set up are not things that I understand. But the Pokemon League, I've said it a couple times, we will see if the players go there. We'll probably get to see that, how it works, how it functions, things like that. Just understand, Port Thalo is very, very similar to the Laris League, but take out the checkpoint. That's basically how it would function. A long, grueling battle after long, grueling battle with no rests, no items, nothing in between. And you have to go all the way from the start to the finish, and you get one shot. So that's all I'll say about that for now. That's pretty much how it works, but I'm not going to get into like specifics of who's there or what's there or why it works the way it does. The Colosseums are similar to the contests I've talked about. They are one of the few things in the world that only happens when the players are there. Because again, they are a lot of work to come up with all of those teams and making them unique and all of that kind of stuff. A lot of the times I'll kind of outsource it to Ben, because Bentley being a like Pro Battle League fan, I like the idea that he gets to introduce the players to famous battlers and their teams. So I really like that. But the Coliseum style thing, yeah, similar to the contests, pretty much exist as the tots want to do them, because there's enough other stuff to work on, like mechanical tuning and new Pokemon encounters and stuff that I don't usually just sit down and make like, okay, here's like a whole bracket of a Coliseum battle. But rolling right on into, can we learn more about the contests? A lot of you want to know about the contests. The contests were 100% a test run thing. The patrons have seen them. They are a lot of extra prep for like an hour-long thing. So similar to the Colosseums, they only happen when the players are there. As for who runs them and how are they organized, it depends on the city. So if you've watched the contests, you know as much about the contests as I and the players do. Are there ribbons? Yes and no. They've never been explicitly stated, but the proficiencies that they gain from doing that, the milestones that they can reach, are kind of filling in that line. As for like a mechanical, how do you run contests? It's pretty simple. I mean, if you've watched the D and Milo Port Thalo contest, you'll kind of have a grasp on how they work, I think. I left in a lot of the math on there so you could kind of hear it. Basically, you come up with a 3-act play. Each act has 5 parts, more or less. You roll an amount of dice based on what you're doing. If you're doing damage, it's one thing. If you're doing a performance, it's another. Natural 20s get you an extra die roll. Natural 1s deduct a die roll. And if you fail, you lose points equal to how far from the DC you failed by. So that's the long and short of contests. Let's circle back. Sylvian Blom has a tie-in question to what would happen if, you know, a bunch of the tots met an unhappy fate. If one of the tots were to die or in some way be unable to continue the campaign, would they simply re-roll a new character with all brand new Pokemon and backstory? Would it be treated as D's introduction where the new character has a chance to fight all the gyms? Or would an NPC familiar to the group take over? For example, if Milo were to die, would Toby avenge his little brother and take over some of Milo's Pokemon? No. I don't think the players or the viewers would be particularly down with like a big hand wave thing of like, okay, Milo's gone, Joel, you now have to play Toby. It would absolutely be the case. I would sit down with the player, we would have a very, very long discussion about what that means for their character and what happens now. The easiest decision probably would be set your team free. Maybe they hang out in the manor for a while, go their own way. A new player character being introduced, I highly doubt we would run through all of the gyms again unless that's something that character wanted to do. The gyms are a hotly contested idea, at least it seems. A lot of y'all seem to really enjoy the gyms, but by the time you're on like the 6th or 7th pass through the gym, you're kind of over it. I feel the same way, but some of you like can't get enough and really want more gyms, and we try to find that nice balance. So if they were to roll like a brand new character, it would probably be the case of like, okay, you have similar gym badges, because we're far enough along that it would be very difficult to just ingratiate a new tater tot. Like, look at what happened when D joined up. It was like this weird dichotomy of the players that have been hanging out for 60 sessions really want to hang out with Devin, who they have hung out with for 25 sessions of Ragnarok, or however many it was. So it's a little bit awkward there, but there are 63 moving parts to the tater tots right now. So we're almost like in too deep, so I really hope that everybody stays fine. That being said, I do have like contingency plans and like things that we can do. We're not just gonna like scrap a session if somebody dies though. So they have ambrosia. They have that. There's that. There are methods in the world for doing things, but hopefully that kind of answers your question, because I can't really answer your question without spoiling stuff that I don't even understand yet, because we have to get back in to film more. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this bout of the Professor's Lab. A lot more kind of above board, a few circle back to mechanics questions. So I hope very much that you have enjoyed this episode of the lab, because I enjoyed making it for you. I enjoyed going through these questions. If you have more, as always, please feel free, drop them in the comment section below on this or any of the lab videos. You can drop them on sessions and stuff. I'll try to scoop them up wherever I can, but it is easiest for me if they are on the lab videos. But if you have questions, comments, concerns, you need expansion on anything that I have said in this or any of the prior ones, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'll cover them as I can. If they warrant their own videos, I'll do that. But, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, I just really want to say thank you so much for all of your questions. Thank you for watching the series up to now. And thank you for your patience while we go through this little hiatus. I wish I could tell you I knew when it was going to be over, but until then, I will try to keep you entertained here and elsewhere. So thank you very much for watching. I love you all very much, and I will see you in the next thing. Goodbye.